Shalom, namaste, and hello to everyone. Good morning, afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are around the globe. I'm very happy and excited to share with you two very innovative initiatives between Israel and smallholder farmers in India, but not only. Israeli technology collaborating with smallholder farmers, and as you all know, in India, always in a big scale. So smallholder farmers and Israeli technology have a lot of comments, which is the way ventures are reaping successful. Evergreen Impactech platform, the one initiative, and the second that I'm very happy to have here with us, Anat Bernstein-Reich, that she is the co-founder of Agri, and she will elaborate more in half an hour, but we will be very happy to start with EIP, Evergreen Impactech platform, and are really happy to invite Mr. Neville Eisenberg, the CEO of EIP, Evergreen Impactech platform, and Mr. Bhaskar Reddy, the CEO of Syngenta Foundation, India, to share with us about the new initiative and very innovative financial model and solution for smallholder farmers. So please, Neville, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Vered, and great to be here. Thanks for having me. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending from where you are watching in the world. I'm very excited to present to you today what we're doing with the Evergreen Impactech platform. So I'm going to go ahead and walk you through the initiative and what we're trying to do. The platform is a new and innovative entity using a blended finance model to sustainably make high added value to agriculture technologies available to smallholder farmers in emerging markets, starting with India. So to be clear, what we're doing here is creating a pipeline which will bring the most cutting-edge agri-tech innovations and make them available to smallholder farmers. I don't need to tell this audience, by virtue of the fact that you're participating in this conference, you know about the importance of agriculture to the world, both in terms of food supply as well as in terms of rural livelihoods and economic development, nowhere more so than in India. But as you can see from this map, smallholder farmers are critical across South Asia, Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So making sure that smallholder farmers can maximize their productivity, maximize their food security, adapt to a changing climate, and be resilient in the face of a changing climate is obviously one of the key challenges we need to face over the next decade. When we put together the Evergreen Impactech platform, our key insight is that innovation is going to be absolutely key to helping the smallholder farmers to make the changes and improvements that they need to achieve these goals. The problem is that we see two specific challenges in bringing the most cutting-edge innovation to smallholder farmers. The first challenge is a supply challenge. Those firms which are operating at the cutting edge of agri-tech innovation are typically not targeting smallholder farmers in emerging markets. There are, of course, some exceptions, but for the most part, those companies developing these technologies are looking to big markets which have big farms where they can make large sales to large clients. So we need to somehow get these companies to think about adapting their product and focusing their energy and attention on smallholder farmers. The second challenge, again, as many of you will know, is to assist with adoption. Smallholder farmers and farmers the world over tend to be conservative, and poorer people also tend to be conservative because they have less ability to absorb risk and negative outcomes when new things go wrong. So getting people to try new things and adopt innovation is very difficult. Our initiative aims to solve both of these challenges simultaneously. So how does it work? There's a two-part approach. First, you have the base. And the base of support to smallholder farmers is essential before you can introduce cutting-edge technologies. Smallholder farmers need to be supported with expertise, with access to credit, market access, assistance to achieve the most productivity that they can, and help to deal with their risk exposures, typically through insurance. There are lots of different schemes that are trying to do this across the world. We believe that one of the most promising and highly successful is the Agri Entrepreneur Growth Foundation, which is something that Bhaskar has been critical to the creation of. The Growth Foundation creates agri entrepreneurs in villages across India by taking underemployed youths and training them up in agricultural extension, as well as how to run a small business. They then gather farmers from their local village, whom they know personally, and over time, they build up the expertise to support those farmers. Each agri entrepreneur supports 100 to 150 farmers. At present, we have over 6,000 agri entrepreneurs, reaching over 600,000 farmers. So that's AEGF, which is our core partner. And AEGF provides the foundation to the farmers to be secure and supported, have access to finance and access to markets. EIP then builds on top of this. So we will bring in the technologies, and through AEGF, we will supply the technologies that can help the farmers go even further. What are we actually going to do as EIP, building on top of this base? So we have 3 steps to our model. The first one is we source relevant agri-technologies globally based on smallholder needs. It's very much a pull model, not a push model. We start with what the farmers need and what their biggest issues are, and we look across the world to find technologies that are appropriate to solving these. We're starting off mainly with technologies from Israel and from India, since our founding partners are partly from Israel, and since we have deep links with India through the Syngenta Foundation India and the Agri Entrepreneurs Growth Foundation. We will source the technologies globally, we'll screen and select a subset, and we'll sign them up to the program. Now, what is the program? The program fundamentally is about validation and then scale up. So part of the problem I mentioned before is how to get the companies to focus on smallholders and how to get the smallholders to have the confidence to adopt the technologies. And this is what we deal with in the validation phase. So we validate the applicability of the technology for smallholder farmers. We run several rounds of trials. The companies bring their technology that's working somewhere else in the world, and we try to generally scale it down. We try to make it less expensive, we try to make it easier to implement, and we try to make it more affordable so that smallholder farmers on an individual or a small group basis can afford to implement the technologies. Usually it takes between 2 to 4 rounds of trials, each one during a growing season in India, to get the technologies to the right point. And once we get them there, we do further scale-up testing and plan the commercialization. Once we get to that stage, we know we have something that can be really successful. And we then showcase it, we train up agri-entrepreneurs, we look for distribution partners beyond the Agri Entrepreneur Growth Foundation to try to cover as many smallholders in India as we can. And then we go ahead and distribute. The key here, the key to the sustainability of our platform is that at this point, the company gives a revenue share as they make sales. They give a small revenue share back to the platform, which creates the financial sustainability that enables this to continue operating. The most important is obviously the technologies themselves. Let me hand over to you, Bhaskar. You've been doing this on the ground to talk about 2 of the technologies that we have trialed.
Thanks, Neville. Like Neville has mentioned, we look for technologies from two points of view. One is, Neville, can you share the screen?
Yep. I think it may have been cut off. I was still planning to share. Can you see it again?
Yeah, so we in the validation phase of the technologies, when you're trying to adapt the technologies to smallholder farmers in India, we look for two aspects. One is the technical viability of the technology. You can click, Neville, one more. One is the technical viability of the technology, and the other is the financial viability of the technology. And the technology might be phenomenal. It might increase the yields by 3x. But if it's costing $1,000 or $2,000 in Indian context, it becomes irrelevant because smallholder farmers cannot afford the technology. So we look for these aspects, both technical aspect and financial aspect. So when we bring in the technologies, we do the trials at entrepreneur demonstration farms at farmers' locations, multi-locational trials in almost 15 to 20 locations across India in multiple crops. We try it over a couple of seasons. And what we are presenting here is two technologies. One is what we call as groundwork bioag, which is a very simple mycorrhiza technology, which improves the intake of nutrients and water by doing a extended root zone development because of mycorrhiza, and also phosphatic uptake improves. And we figured out that by mycorrhiza is not something new to India, but this technology that we brought in from Israel from groundwork bioag had much higher spore concentration, and which was more effective in increasing the yields. So from a range of crops, from cucumber to green peas, we find the yield increase in the range of 10 to 25%, and fertilizer reduction and reduction in water use, which are all directly contributing to the Sustainable Development Goals. And in the picture on the right hand side, you'll find these are the seedlings in the vegetable nursery grown, where the first two rows on the right hand side are without the mycorrhiza treatment, and the ones in the background are with the mycorrhiza treatment, which you'll find as a phenomenal difference in the way the mycorrhiza improves the yield in the crop. Next slide. And then the second technology that we recently introduced, what we call as Thalia Climate Smart Mulch Tray. And these mulch trays, usually we find plastic mulch available for vegetable crops, but we don't find it available for orchards and the fruit trees. And this is a technology which was developed by Thalia in Israel, and it can fit nicely into the root zone of the plant. Next slide, Neville. And then what it does is that it improves the water holding capacity or reduces the evaporation, maintains the ambient temperature in the soil because of the multi-layer plastic mulch, and also improves the soil health and reduces the weeding in the plant, around the plant. Again, this technology we brought to India. We tested out multiple locations. Of course, the yields were phenomenal, like you see on the slide. The yields were, we also tested it in tomato crop, and the yields were almost up 3 times compared to the mulching, which you find in the light green color, the drip and mulching. But what was also more important was the business model innovation that we did, adaptation that we did. These trays cost about 200 to 225 rupees per tray, and for a small farmer who is growing 100 mango trees or orange orchard, multiplied by 225 to 250 rupees, it goes up to 25,000 rupees. The total cost of cultivation of an orchard itself is 25,000 rupees. So it's very expensive. So what we did was we introduced a business model innovation and a process innovation in terms of giving the trays on rental mode to the farmers. And we saw a good uptake because of the rental mode. And we also have connected the Israeli company to the local manufacturer in India and started looking at exploring manufacturing in India. So I think what we do is technology adaptation, business process innovation, the financial viability for the technologies. And then once the technologies are proven, then like what Neville said, we put it on the entrepreneur network for commercialization. So as we're talking, we have 600,000 farmers, and any of these technologies can be immediately put on a market for commercialization with these 600,000 farmers. So I'll stop here. Neville, over to you.
Thanks very much, Bhaskar. And as I explained earlier as well, we do the testing and the innovation and testing validation through the agri entrepreneurs that Bhaskar is talking about. When it comes to distribution, this is our primary target market, but then we actually go out much more widely than that once the technology is proven to also see how we can supply it to more farmers. So let me go on, and I want to talk about the funding structure, and I want to talk about how those watching can get involved. I hope that they're as excited as we are about this and how to get involved. So the funding structure and the overall structure that we're running here has got three parts to it. The first part is the nonprofit arm. So we're raising grant funding in order to provide the foundation and the seed money for building up the initiative. We've talked about activities we've already done. The three partners that have driven this, and you can see the names at the bottom of the screen: Milk and Innovation Center Israel, Startup Nation Central, and Syngenta Foundation for Sustainable Agriculture. Between those three nonprofits, we've actually, over the last 2 to 3 years, done all the trials, taken a number of companies through, set up the network. And what we're doing now is scaling up so that we can bring more technologies through and build this sustainable pipeline. So the first step is the EIP nonprofit. That's going to build and expand the underlying ecosystem. The next part is the for-profit company arm. This is the key. This is the vehicle that is taking debt and equity, commercial investments from impact investors looking for a financial return as well as a very high impact return. And that company is the one that pays for the adaptation, the validation, and the commercialization support to the agri-tech companies. So the companies don't have to pay for the support. The support is paid by EIP, and that is then repaid from the successful companies as they get revenue. So we help them, we help to mitigate some of the risk and that they're not able to take and put some of the investment in place. The for-profit also gets rights to future investment in the companies that we help develop. So we help them adapt and we get some revenue share. We also have rights to future and equity investment. And that's where the third piece comes in, because a lot of the funds and investors who are putting equity and even some debt into the for-profit are actually interested as well in taking equity directly in the companies. So alongside this, we have a co-investment fund where actually once we have worked with the companies, we've proven the technology, we then have the opportunity at their next funding round to put our investors into the companies as shareholders. It's important that we talk about the overall impact on the Sustainable Development Goals. You'll have gathered by now, obviously, this is overall a very high impact initiative. But first, I'm going to talk about the impact on people, essentially. We're going to improve income for at least 10 million smallholder farmers, which is where the AEGF will be 10 years from now. They already have the funding to be at 3 million in a year and a half from now. So we'll improve income fundamentally for 10 million smallholder farmers, of which 20 to 30% we estimate will be women, and maybe more if some of our other efforts are successful. We'll provide farmers with alternative income options. We'll help them increase their yield. We'll help them to diversify. We'll help to create decent and sustainable livelihood for 100,000 rural unemployed youth through the Agri Entrepreneur Scheme. And we will train at least half of the smallholder farmers on financial inclusion and access to financial tools. We'll be bringing at least one very modern, cutting-edge agriculture technology to 10 million smallholder farmers. And then obviously, just as important is the climate side. And we will see, based on the technologies of the climate, a 30% reduction in water use of fertilizer, nutrients, water retention, and we'll see soil health improvement. And what's especially exciting here for me is that having proven this in India is where we're starting, but having proven this in India, we intend to take it very rapidly over the next couple of years to Africa, to the rest of South Asia and Southeast Asia, according to the map I presented right at the beginning, showing where you have a high prevalence of smallholder farmers. So ultimately, the impact could be even much more than what you see on this page. So to finish, where do we think we'll be in 10 years? That's our planning horizon. We'll reach 100,000 agri-entrepreneurs, 10 million smallholder farmers at the very least. And we anticipate making about 30 technologies available to smallholder farmers in India and elsewhere around the world, about 3 to 4 per year over the 10 years. We'd really like to appeal to people watching and participating to join us. As I said, the founding partners have set things up and proven that it works. We're now building to scale. And we'd really like you to join us if you are any of the following. If you're an investor looking for a financial return alongside tangible climate, social, and economic impact, we want to hear from you. We've already raised a substantial proportion of the equity and debt that we need for the for-profit vehicle, but we'll make room for you if you're especially keen. If you are a donor, we'd also like to hear from you. If you're a donor looking to fund the startup costs, the adaptation and rollout of the climate smart productivity enhancing technology, huge benefits here. And we're looking for, again, we've got some, and we're looking for more donors to help us with the startup funding for this expansion. And finally, if you're an agri-tech company who wants to adapt and scale your technology for smallholder farmers, but the risk is just too great and you want help and guidance and ultimately access to this very important market, please also get in touch. We'd love to create the needed systemic change together with you. How can you get in touch? I've put Laura's email here, laura.shalmayev@SN Central. Also in the chat, I see that Laura has put my LinkedIn on there, and I think maybe Bhaskar or Vered's as well. So please don't hesitate. Of course, through the organizers of the conference, you can also hear about our details. And we really hope to have as many of you as possible to help us accelerate and scale up this exciting initiative. Thanks very much. Thanks for listening. Thanks very much, Vered. Back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Neville. Wow. Wow. Very, very impressive. And very exciting to see that after 3 years, you have the ability to take it forward and to grow in partnership. And we are looking forward to see it in India and all around, as you mentioned.